Talked about killing folks, talk about robbing people. That's why these things are happening, because you hold these people up as heroes in our society. Violent, evil, sadistic individuals.
Vince Everett went absolute beast mode against the brain rot being fed to young minds under the guise of pop culture.
Her hit record at the time was IF N-words for free. And when your children act like them, you're alarmed?
We went from, in the black community, producing Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston to what really black people really want to hear right now is Sexy Red. I refuse to believe that.
But even I wasn't ready for how deep the rabbit hole really goes. Subscribe to Elites Exposed for more, and watch this before I break it down.
So you have the arts, you have the culture, and you have the politics. In your arts, you have religion, you have music, you have books, you have television, radio. Those are the arts. You and I are listening to the Temptations and listening to all this great music going on, right? Stacks. These people listen, I want to kill an N-word, I want to F again word. I mean, this little rapper in Memphis by the name of GloRilla, not GloRilla, GloRilla.
Yes.
Just was invited to the White House. Her hit record at the time was IF N-words for free. Gets a White House invitation. In our time, you had astronauts and Nobel laureates brought to the White House, right? And you say, that's what I want to aspire to be. Those people you brought to the White House were the people you aspired to be. The heavyweight champion of the world, right? The Super Bowl champs, right? Those were the people you aspired to be. And now they bring these people and say, you should aspire to be that. And then they're alarmed when they are that.
And what Vince says isn't just critique of modern music. It's noticing the earliest signs of the demise of the culture itself at the hands of a very corrupt business model. Because the truth is, you can tell the future of a civilization by the kind of art it puts on a pedestal today. And I can't be the only one that feels like almost every form of art in this country has become far more trashy and unoriginal in the last 2 decades. Music doesn't have that depth and cultural longevity anymore. Movies are just weak rip-offs or lazy remakes of past hits. And standing out from this ocean of cultural slop means artists have to resort to more shock value and increasingly wicked themes just to have their 5 minutes of fame. I mean, how else do you explain to me why almost no one today or in the last 20 years can even touch the kind of era-defining and genre-defining artists we saw in the last half of the 20th century? And that includes names like Elvis Presley, Aretha Franklin, Michael Jackson, Tupac Shakur, and Johnny Cash, among so many others. You just don't see that anymore. Instead, you see small bursts of online fame for new artists who shove the most extreme shock content they can and then fade away into irrelevance with a bag of cash. Except those are the same kind of artists accelerating this downward spiral of the culture. And it's all made worse when they're held up as idols by the people in power. To me, that's the kind of bigotry of low expectations that the powerful elite truly have toward the common man.
Well, you had Snoop at the White House. Snoop talking about smoking blunts every day. He's on TV selling more merchandise than Morgan Freeman is right now. Well, it's Snoop selling cars and selling beer and he's selling sneakers. And he a dope fiend. Talked about killing folks, talk about robbing people. But they made him a hero. And people look at this and they say, well, why are these things happening? That's why these things are happening, because you hold these people up as heroes in our society. Violent, evil, sadistic individuals. And when your children act like them, you're alarmed?
And I think that's the core of the problem. The biggest lie sold by the entertainment industry as a cover for these rotten themes is that they're just meant for adults. But we all know the truth, don't we? Almost no one is first exposed to them only when they turn 18, and the people manufacturing this garbage know full well that impressionable young minds are the first to consume it. Rap culture, for example, particularly preys on the rebellious nature of young men, leading them down violent and antisocial life paths far before they've grown old enough to realize that they were just disposable consumers to enrich the record companies. That's the real tragedy. And I don't buy this excuse for 1 second that these decadent music themes are just giving people what they want. They're in fact curating a whole generation's taste by capturing their minds and their imagination as early as possible. I think even Candace Owens spoke about just how far the cultural appetite for original and meaningful art has been suppressed and deliberately channeled into a demand for increasingly poisonous themes in pop culture.
I accept that obviously at a certain point, and this gets into why you were saying why I won't bend for money, I wouldn't do it. I'm built different, you know? But I also acknowledge that these people are being pushed in a certain direction. Women, you're being told, can you make it sexier? I will not accept. The conspiracy to me is to try to convince me that the times have changed and we went from, in the black community, producing Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston to what really Black people really want to hear right now is Sexy Red. And so that's the reason why these record labels are going to Sexy Red and offering her a deal. I refuse to believe that. Okay, so yes, power is held by these labels when they go out, and I don't mean that as any disrespect to her. What I am saying is that frequencies are real.
Yes,
okay,
exactly.
Frequencies impact your spirit, and this people who, in my viewpoint, have a lot of power in the music industry also understand that. There is no reason to fight to put filth on the airways.
But the reason you still see that filth is how the audience has been desensitized and numbed to all of it. I mean, even I remember just a few decades ago when being edgy and rebellious or pushing the line of cultural sensitivity actually meant something. If nothing else, it was at least rare and exciting. It was people like Prince or David Bowie's androgynous dressing styles that at least had some silent rebellion or shock value. It was Tupac and Ice Cube's profanity-laden rap that actually communicated deep anger and truth against industry control. Aretha Franklin or Nina Simone would push the line when it comes to racial identity and their place in Black America. I'm sure you remember Michael Jackson's rage-fueled dance breakdown at the end of his black or white music video that channeled his anger at racial divide and bigotry. And in some ways, even people like Madonna or Marilyn Manson in the 90s at least had some novelty factor to their name for bashing organized religion or the church establishment. Simply put, what we saw in the past was transgression for a cause. Now what we see is transgression for clicks and attention. And those are two completely different things. So what happens when it becomes fashionable to just be a rebel without a cause? You get a whole new generation that acts like grown-up teenagers because that's exactly where the system wants them.
So you want to ask the question of these young people. We all wear uniforms, don't we? If you see a house on fire and there's a fireman over there with a fireman, you say, hey man, go. He says, oh no, I'm just wearing this. You get mad at him. Police officer do get mugged. Hey man, you go. Oh no, I'm just wearing this uniform. I'm not really a police officer. Well, you see a young man looking like a thug. And you treat him like a thug. He says, well, actually I graduated from Harvard. Well man, why do you want to look like a thug? Well, I can dress the way I want to. Yes, you can, and you're dressing like a thug. And I'm treating you like one. Why would an intelligent man want to be looked upon as a thug? Why would an intelligent woman want to be looked upon as a Why are you dressing like one?
And that's the one question that strikes at the knee of why the music industry is even surviving. It first turned an entire generation into mindless scrollers looking for the next emotional high, and then fed them more and more filth to satiate that appetite. There has to be some end to this downward spiral, but as much as I've wrestled with this question, I'm struggling to find a way to break this vicious cycle between the leeches in the entertainment industry and the willing hosts that so much of the audience has become. If you want to know how deep this problem truly runs, watch my breakdown of Ice Cube's bombshell allegations about modern rap culture and subscribe to Elites Exposed for more.